Hi folks, it's me, Justin Houston, with you again today on this beautiful March the 2nd day. We're about a week into our sap flow on our maple trees. Today we're going to be discussing with you how we do our maple syrup production. Here we have a beautiful sugar maple tree. We tapped these trees again about a week ago. What we're looking for in order to be able to know when it's time to do this is we're looking for the temperature at night to be 32 degrees or below freezing, and then during the day it rises up above that 32 degrees and becomes warm. So today's a little unique because last night it was below freezing, and here today with the sun out we are still below freezing. So the sap is not running so good today. But it's a good thing, because once it does that where it stays cold the whole time and it's been running, and then it gets cold again, and then it warms up, these things will start gushing again and we'll have so much. By the way, this year's been a really good year. So far we've already harvested around 40 gallons of sap and produced 1 whole gallon of syrup. So, simply, we have a tap tree here again. We use regular modern jugs. They have a lid on them, makes it real convenient, keeps everything nice and sealed. I just come over to the tree, and then I have a bucket, and I tap it, and I grab the handle, and I turn it over, and there you can see the maple sap. That's the raw sap coming out. And I'll dump that and get that real good. You see, we didn't have a very big run last night, again, because the temperature was changed. Now, this sap that you see here, this raw sap, the American Indians, specifically the Iroquois Nation, they call this huata, which means sweet water. And this is actually a medicine drink. They will drink this in their drinks to remove heavy metals from the body. So it's a very healthy drink. Uncooked, no fire touches it. They just drink the raw sap for the medicinal water, which is sweet water, which is used to cleanse the body of heavy metals. Okay, so we've done that. Now, this is a very interesting process that we have here, and
so Justin, I think it's pretty cool what you do out here with tapping the trees.
Right.
Everybody's always asking us, what are those jugs out there?
Right.
So how did this all start?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because it's like, how did humans figure out that there's a certain time of the year when you can do this? Gravity causes it. The heat of the sun comes around, and it causes that engine, that heartbeat, to bring that sap up through the tree. And then if you poke a hole, gravity then will pull that sap out. And if you have a container of some type, you can collect it. Now, how in the world did we figure that out? It's a great question, Donna. Well, if you look right here, you can see these holes in a perfect row right here. These are a little older, but what that does is that is a woodpecker. And the woodpecker, so basically the way we learned it is by observing the birds. And we saw that there was a woodpecker that would come along this time of year every year and poke these series of holes in here. Now that does two things for the woodpecker. Some woodpeckers do that to create a booby trap, and that sap will start to pour out and bugs will come up and get stuck in the sap, and they'll come along and they'll pull the bugs out and eat them out of the sap. Also, there are some woodpeckers that do it just to drink the sap itself. They're actually sapsuckers. You've heard of that name before. And they actually eat the sap. Now, there is another animal that a lot of people don't think of, but I have actually seen a squirrel go to the fresh buds of the maple tree and nip it off this time of year. And then they'll come back around and they'll literally get a drink of that running sap off of that bud. And I have found them on my tap jugs, squirrels, and right here at the point where there's a little hang, and they're actually drinking that sap. So, that's how we discovered it.
Well, not to interrupt, Justin, but, if you have hummingbird feeders out this spring and summer, you will see woodpeckers sometimes drinking out of those.
Sure.
If you're lucky enough.
Absolutely.
They like that sweet water.
Yeah, and so that's the example. That is how we learn. And what's great about the way, and a lot of people are worried about the health of the trees, and we are too here at the park. We're very much concerned with that. you see that the woodpecker just barely cuts into the Cambrian layer. And this will heal within a week, and it'll be completely healed like nothing happened. Now ours will run for our larger, about a 1/4 inch in diameter hole that goes up into the tree maybe 1.5 inches. This will stay open until the end of the run. Now what's the end of the run? That's when it stays above freezing at night and above freezing during the day. That will cut off the run. Now, it won't be shortly after that, maybe a week after that, and I'll show you an example of that later on, where this, when I pull the tap, I'll plug the tree with a branch from the tree, so there's no rejection, there's no disease issues, and I'll plug that. Within a week of plugging that, this tree will literally pinch off that plug and heal, and I'll show you some examples of that later. And now we're going to go on a little bit of an adventure, and we're going to go over to the park and find some trees that have not been tapped, and we're going to show you the processes we go through to tap the trees here at George Rogers Clark. So come on and enjoy the adventure. Here we are in a beautiful little part of the park. Beautiful day today. It's a little cold. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to actually see the sap flow, but that's okay. We're going to get into showing you how we tap here in the park. I have a little glen here of beautiful maple trees, and it's important that your maple trees, if you're going to tap them for sap, that they be at least 1 foot in diameter. If it's any smaller than that, you could quite possibly make the tree sick and kill it. So you want to make sure your trees are a good, at least 1 foot in diameter, and I like to go a little bit bigger. This one's a little small, but one of the things that we like to do here at the park is to honor our American Indian traditions that we have here, because we have the Shawnee village that was here and all that happened. So, you know, when we come in as people of the earth, we come to these trees and we want to take something from them. So I usually find the first tree. I like to find a mother tree, but this is a nice young one, so it'll represent the youth. And what's interesting is that when I was a boy and I would go to powwows and go powwow dancing, I was at first scared to do it because everybody's watching you, you know, and you're out there in the middle of everything. And so I would talk, the elders would be like, you know, come in and dance. And I'd be like, I'm scared. And they'd be like, well, if you're scared, go over to the trees and ask the old ones, the old people that are inside the trees, to come and dance. They want to dance, but they can't because they're stuck in the tree. All they need is for you to go ask them. And so you're not dancing for yourself in the circle. You're dancing with the old one that you asked to dance to come with you and dance. And so that was when I got the understanding that these trees have a spirit in them. These are the old ones. And so if I'm going to come and take their sap, their lifeblood, in a good way, I should ask the tree and ask the spirit inside, may I harvest you? May I take some of your essence, some of that sweet water that comes from you, you holy being. And I hear this tree, and this tree says, I'm too small. And it says, no, you need to go with one of my brothers or sisters over here. So, okay, cool. We dig that. Now, there's a lot of ways to tap these trees. A lot of people will use a very professional bag system where they have a metal tap that goes into the tree and then a bag hangs and you can come along with it. Or some of the bigger production places, they'll do the same metal tap and then they'll hook a bunch of hoses. Sometimes you'll be in the woods and you'll see a bunch of hoses going through the woods. Well, they'll use gravity and they'll get a grove of maple trees like this together and they'll cook it together with these tube system, and there'll be one large collection system off downhill that's through gravity is feeding there, and so they just come and they dip out of that one container. Here at the park, budgets are small, and you know, and so we got to make things work for how we do it. And it's really nice the way we do it because we use a southeastern tradition, like with the Cherokee and some of the where river cane grows, and we use river cane to make our taps, and then we simply use you will see them throughout the park, a gallon milk jug. and we'll use that as our collection. But back in the old days, that would have been as simple as a gourd container, like, oh yeah, here we go, like a gourd container. You go all summer growing your gourds, and then you would have them, and then you can use this, and you can hang that on that river cane tap to be your collection. But so now let's move on to talking about this river cane tap and how that works exactly. Okay, if you come over here, I have a little bit of a river cane that I grow at my home. This is a native species river cane. This is used by the native people for all sorts of things. Baskets, blowguns, arrows, spears, mats, construction for major framing. Here in the park, we use it to make maple syrup taps. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find a good piece of river cane. Now, another thing about river cane, it is an endangered species. So, it is very good to do this. Okay, so what I really want to do in my little nippers here, there we go. What I want to do is I want to get a little section out here. River cane is hollow except for at the nodes. That's the only place that's not hollow. So what I would like to do is I need a little bit of a spigot right there. And this branch is going to be very important because that's going to form the hook. So I'll come back here. Okay. Now I'll come in and I'll just kind of clean that branch up just a little bit because we want it to form a hook. Okay. Now all of this is hollow except for at the node. So what do? We got to drill out that node, right? And I have a wonderful old bit and brace here. This is from the mid 1800s, an original bit and brace, and this is the way you would have seen this done a lot. So we're just going to take that and we're going to drill out that node in there. That's the only spot that's not hollow. There we go, not so bad. Ram it around a couple times, blow it out. Look through there, make sure there's nothing, because it's got like a little paper film in there that you got to get out. You see me blowing it out there. Okay, now I got a hollow all the way through. Very good. Okay, so that is our tap, all completely organic, all right here from the woods. Now, within, well, I need to change out the bit on the brace here. So this part is called a brace, and this part is the bit. Set my little piece down there. Just take out the bit. Don't lose it, put it in your pocket, especially in the woods. You go in the woods, don't forget, put your wallet under your seat, put your keys in your seat, and your cell phone, because you're guaranteed to lose them, okay? So we're going to trade out that bit. Okay, so now we got a new bit. That should be about the diameter. You want a real tight fit, because you want to seal it up real good. So, okay, so that's going to be the diameter. Now, we said that our first tree here, it said it was too small. So let's find a bigger one. The important thing to do is the sun is the engine that causes the pump to move. So if I tap, this direction would be north. If I tap on this side, I'm not going to get any movement. It's not going to run at all for me. So what I have to think of is, where is the sun at? Over here is the east. So the sun rises over there. Now that means that the day is going to start heating up as soon as the sun, as you can see, it's nice and bright on this side. Excuse me. As soon as the sun hits this tree, it's going to start going. Now in the early morning, it's still going to be cold, and it's going to take a couple hours for that sun to get up warm enough. So if I tap directly in the east, yeah, it's going to run for maybe a couple hours, and then it'll be done as the sun moves towards the west. So what I usually like to do is I like to find a happy medium. So right now you can see the shadow on there. You can see that the sun is bright on this side. Right now this side should be running, although it's kind of cold today. Here's crossing our fingers that you're going to get to see it run. But so I'm going to find that happy medium. I'm not going to be at the end of the day, and I'm not going to be at the beginning of the day. I want to be somewhere in the middle where it's going to run for a long time. Now, it's important that you get an angle going up towards the tree, because gravity is going to be what causes this to pour out. Thank you, old one. And we're going to do a small, this is just like a pinprick to these trees. Oh, it heals so fast. Sometimes you gotta come out, if you were serious about production, you gotta come out and re-drill the hole because it'll heal up real quick. So we'll go in here.
Ow, I'm kidding.
And we'll tap the tree with our nice old style bit. And I just want to go about 1 inch or 2 up in there, enough to get a good hold of things. Oh baby, she's gonna run. Are you on there, Donna?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pull the bit. Oh. Well, ain't that something? Come out there, you son.
Come out.
Okay, here it comes. See it running? And it's not running. Oh, perfect.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I
Perfect.
Can see it.
Okay, now then, I'm going to take that tube that we made, that tap out of River Cane, and I'm going to check and see if it goes in there. Not really. So what I need to do is put a little taper on the end. And another thing that's really nice to do is to take and to cut into it a little bit, so you got that slit. Because see, what happens is, if we completely make it around here, then that Cambrian layer will get sealed off, but with that hole, it'll still drop down into there, even if we get. And then I want to put a little taper on it, like so. Okay, now it should see running out of there, right?
Geez.
Ain't that nice? Okay, now it's gonna go in there real good. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I want to find a rock. Gosh, here's a big one. It'll work. Take a big old rock and get that in there really good. Because what happens is, as your receptacle fills, it becomes heavy. Now see, I kind of plugged it up a little bit there. I'm going to have to open it back up so you can see it coming out of there again. Oh yeah, here it comes. Trip.
Oh,
Trip.
yeah.
Okay, so now we have our tap. It's running, it's working well, it's good and sealed. Now we have to do something to collect this, right? Up north, they would make birch bark containers that would be sealed with pine resin, and they would set it down at the base. Also in those times, the way they would do this up north, the tapping method, is they would literally take an axe and come to the base of the tree and chop up at an angle, and then take a split piece of branch or even a bark and jam it into that chop, and then put a container, and it would run out onto that. Obviously we can't do that here in the park because our trees, we love them, and we have a lot of trouble with trees. You know, our problem with the ash borer and our problems with the honeysuckle. So yeah, so we just do a little pinprick. This will be healed in no time. It'd be like we never even did anything. So we're running here. Now, what did I do with the gourd? Let me grab the gourd. I'm really glad to see it wasn't so cold today that it didn't run, and that's nice. We get to see the effect. So I got a gourd here. It's been hollowed out. You know, simple gourd. We take that, hang that on there, try to get them little branches to act like a hook and lock that in there. And there you go, simple as that. Now I come along with another receptacle, pull that gourd, dump it in there, and put it back on. Now, that being said, the trees are running great this year. We've gotten all we need at this point. So I'm offering to everyone in the public, all the fans of the park, we have these trees tapped throughout the park. You will see a jug with a lid on it. You have a receptacle, you come, you take the lid off, you turn it, you fill your receptacle, you put it back, you put the lid back on. You all are welcome to come and get the rest of the sap that's running for this year. Like I say, it's good, it's just a really great year. Out of 6 trees tapped, we've already gotten 40 gallons of sap. So it's going to be a real great year. So if anybody wants to come in and try your hand at cooking some of this sap and everything, you're welcome to come grab some. Just make sure you put things back. Once it gets warm through the day and through the night, the sap run will be over, and I'll pull the jugs, and there won't be nothing left.
And we're going to show that in a future video.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, this is just for the tapping today. We're going to talk a little bit more about the river cane here in a minute, but later on we're going to shoot again and we're going to be talking about actually cooking the sap down and the processes necessary to turn it into syrup and sugar. Okay, so one more thing we got to handle here. What did I do with my tools? I put them over here. All right, so over here, this river cane. You're like, you saw me chop that big chunk and talk about how it was endangered and everything. Well, what we have here at the park are some major issues. Like I always say, the emerald ash borer on the ash trees, and then the honeysuckle. If you look in our forest here, it's mostly honeysuckle and dead ash trees. Okay, so what we like to do, we have this wonderful, and this is a great time of the year for this stuff. For any of you people out there who do grafting, transplanting, or potting, right now is the beginning. When the sap runs in a tree, some people follow a groundhog, what a groundhog says. I follow the sap in the tree. When the sap starts running, it is officially spring. Nature has said it is spring. Groundhog sees a shadow, doesn't matter. When the sap runs, that's when it's spring. Okay, so back to our river cane here. We have this endangered river cane. We have a ton of honeysuckle. Now, this is something you can do. River cane is wonderful. It is an evergreen. This will stay this green throughout the winter. It will never change colors. This is an true evergreen. So what I like to do is, I got the node here, that where I cut that thing off, I'll take and make an angle. Well, that wasn't very good, but that's a decent angle. Then I'll come up here and leaving all of this at the node. Cut. Okay. Now, this right here is a wonderful start. This is how we start river cane. I've tried it in this park every year about this time. The deer love river cane. They've been eating it unbelievable. So what you do, you find your piece of river cane. You then come over to any land. I have more. I'm going to be planting tons of it. But right here is our arch nemesis, the honeysuckle, right? So I go over to a young honeysuckle and I pull it, beat the dirt off of the roots. Tenacious plant, tenacious. Throw it out so that it's above the ground. If these roots go back in contact with the ground in any way, this plant will grow again. Okay, so throw that away. Now, in the spot where the honeysuckle come out, got that pointed edge. Now, it's important that you get the node and the nodes of the branch below ground level. So, right there where that honeysuckle come out, go right in there and make sure that that node is down below ground level. Okay, now we're still cold, so we just kind of put that back right there. Hopefully that'll deter the deer and things for a little while, and that will be done hundreds of times. As you see here, I have many, and every single node with a branch on it will be cut, and I will go through and I will pull the honeysuckle like we just did, beat the roots off of it, and replace it. I also have some here that I'm going to be planting today. I got the whole clump, so we're going to plant those. It enjoys low areas. A lot of people think, well, you can put it right in the water as a water plant. No, it doesn't work that way. It really don't. If I planted it, say, right down there in that low spot, it would die out. It would get ruined. But up here on this a little bit higher, close, nice sun, right there, it's going to stay kind of wet, and all that honeysuckle. So I can pull honeysuckle and replace it with this, and hopefully this is one of the things, if it takes hold, it will really take hold. And it will cover, it'll be like a giant privacy fence here, if it takes hold. Like I said, for several years now, I have been planting it, and the deer just annihilate it. So that's what we're doing there with that. So I will continue today to plant this river cane, and hopefully we'll replace honeysuckle with river cane and replace some of our shade that we've lost because of the ash trees. Guys, this has been a real great adventure. Justin Houston again, historical interpreter here at George Rogers Clark Park. You guys, please subscribe, like, and join. And remember, Ohio, please recycle. Have a great day.